Okay, if you're learning English, you probably know this exact feeling.
Oh.
Well, it's awful. You're in a conversation, you understand everything like perfectly fine. The input, no
Hey,
problem.
you're following along completely.
But then suddenly it's your turn to speak, and your mind just goes blank. Total ice block. That that language freeze hits you.
Mm-hmm.
And the words, even simple words, they just vanish. Poof, gone.
It's intensely frustrating, isn't it? It almost feels like you're sabotaging yourself sometimes.
Exactly. Because you've put in the time, studying the grammar, listening to stuff, maybe reading.
You feel like you should be able to speak, you have the knowledge, the data points are all there.
But when it comes to actually, producing the language, making a sentence on the spot.
The brain just locks up,
Yeah.
completely freezes. You might feel nervous, start talking really slowly, or just nothing comes out when someone asks you something directly in English.
That specific panic, that freeze, that's exactly what we're digging into today. This deep dive is all about uncovering the real reason that happens.
And it's probably not what most people think.
Right. We're drawing on our sources here to show that the fix isn't necessarily like more grammar drills. It's about a fundamental shift in how you practice.
A different approach entirely.
Yeah. So our mission today is to reveal the mechanics behind fixing that freeze so you can actually start speaking English with confidence, like real confidence, even if you're just starting out.
And I think the very first thing we have to do right off the bat is challenge that big damaging idea that holds so many people back.
Which is?
The idea that speaking languages is some kind of natural talent, a
Yeah.
gift, that some people are just born good at languages and others, well, aren't.
Ah, yes. The language gene myth. You look at someone speaking fluently and think, wow, they're gifted. I could never do that.
It's such a common belief, and it kind of lets you off the hook, doesn't it?
Hmm.
If you believe it's a gift you don't have.
But the science, the cognitive science that our source material is based on, it tells a very different story. It delivers this really fundamental truth. Speaking English is not a talent, it's a skill, full stop.
And that distinction, skill versus talent, it changes everything. Absolutely everything.
How so?
Well, think about it. A talent feels like something fixed, innate. You either have it or you don't. But a skill is something you develop, something you build through practice.
Okay, yeah. Like learning an instrument.
Exactly, like learning guitar. Or learning to cook a complicated dish, or even driving a car. Remember learning to drive.
Oh, God, yes. Jerky starts, stalling constantly.
Right. Your brain felt totally overgoated trying to manage the pedals, the mirrors, the steering wheel, everything all at once. It was conscious, effortful control.
Definitely stalled out a few times. Maybe more than a few.
But you got smoother, didn't you? Not because some magical driving talent suddenly appeared.
No, it was just doing it over and over. Daily practice, driving to school or work.
Precisely. The repeated action moved the whole process from that clunky, conscious effort to unconscious automaticity. Your feet just knew what to do.
Okay, I see the connection. So English speaking is like that.
It's exactly the same kind of motor skill, essentially. It relies on muscle memory, actual muscles in your mouth, your tongue, your jaw, and it relies on automatic recall in your brain.
Things you build only through practice.
Only through repeated, intentional action. It's not about knowing rules in a textbook. It's about doing the language, making the sounds, forming the sentences consistently.
So for you listening right now, if you feel stuck, if you feel slow, that's actually okay. We need to normalize that slow start.
Completely normal.
Right.
It's totally expected for a beginner, even an intermediate learner sometimes, to think slowly, to pause a lot, to search for the right word. That's just stage one.
It's part of the process, not a sign of failure.
Absolutely. If you're making mistakes right now, honestly, congratulations. That means you're practicing, you're trying, you're doing it.
Every fluent speaker you hear started there.
Every single one. They all went through that phase of short, simple sentences, probably full of errors. The difference, and this is what our sources really hammer home, is that they didn't let the errors make them stop.
They just kept going.
They kept practicing, maybe slowly, but consistently, day after day, until the act of speaking itself started to feel easier, more automatic.
So it really does boil down to that consistency, doesn't it? Small daily actions, not some big overnight breakthrough.
That's the foundation. Slow, steady wins the race here.
Okay, so if we accept this as a skill, slow start is normal, consistency is key. What's the next hurdle? You mentioned a psychological obstacle.
Yes.
Yes. Once we have the right mindset, the skill mindset, we can tackle what I think is the single biggest psychological barrier that keeps people frozen, the perfection trap. The perfection trap. Okay, let's unpack that. Why do learners get caught in this? I see it all the time. They compare themselves to native speakers, try to use super complex words.
It often comes from a good place, actually.
Mm.
An ambition to sound really good, to sound native right away.
Which isn't realistic, is it?
Not immediately, no. Achieving that native-like flow involves speed, nuance, cultural references, automatic recall. Things that simply take time and a lot of practice to develop. So learners create this impossible gap between where they are now and where they think they should be.
And when they try to bridge that gap instantly,
They fail because the standard they set is unreachable at that moment. And that failure leads to intense frustration, embarrassment, and often silence. They aim for perfection and gotta freeze.
so the big secret we need to get across right now is you don't need to be perfect.
Not even close. You don't need to sound perfect to sound great. Or, more importantly, to communicate effectively.
It's not about lowering your standards, it's about setting the right standard for where you are now to allow for progress.
Exactly. The goal needs to shift. This is crucial. The primary goal is communication, not perfection. Did your message get across? Did the other person understand you?
If yes, then success.
Then you succeeded. Period. We have to let go of that pressure to sound like a BBC newsreader or a Hollywood actor on day one. Your unique fluency voice is the one that communicates clearly and confidently in your own way.
That's actually a huge relief. Takes a lot of pressure off, especially when you remember native speakers make mistakes and pause and stumble all the time.
All the time. We just don't notice it as much.
Okay, so if the goal is just communication, effective communication, that leads directly to using simpler language, right?
Yeah.
And this technique you mentioned, circumlocution.
Yes, exactly. The most immediate practical thing you can do is learn to work within the vocabulary you already comfortably know. Don't strain for the fancy, low-frequency word under pressure.
Start small, use simple sentences.
Lean on the words you're sure of, even if they feel basic. It's much better than freezing because you can't recall that one perfect word.
Okay, but what happens when you genuinely hit a wall? Like you need a specific word to explain something and it's just gone. Let's use that example from the research. Say you need the word chef.
Right. You're talking about a restaurant. You want to mention the main cook, and the word chef completely vanishes from your brain.
This is prime freeze territory. What does the non-freezing communicator do?
Instead of freezing, apologizing, maybe switching back to their native language, they use circumlocution. They talk around the missing word, using the simple words they do have available.
So instead of stalling for chef,
You might say something like, the person who cooks the food in the restaurant, or the main cook, the one in charge of the kitchen.
the person who cooks the food in the restaurant, okay, that's simple, uses basic words.
And it's perfectly clear, isn't it? The listener immediately understands who you mean. You've communicated successfully.
And you haven't had to stop and panic trying to retrieve that one specific word.
Precisely. You've used the words you do know to solve the problem. Practicing this skill, describing things, explaining concepts using your current vocabulary, it fundamentally changes how your brain responds to those missing word moments. It shifts from panic to problem solving.
It's proactive communication.
Yeah.
Using what you have instead of freezing over what you don't. That's a huge mental shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
It stops the translation freeze cycle right in its tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, so mindset shift. It's a skill. Aim for communication, not perfection. Use simple language and circumlocution. Now let's get into the mechanics, the foundations, input and repetition. This is where we address a really common structural mistake many learners make.
Which is?
Trying to speak too much, too soon, without enough listening first. You can't really expect smooth output if the input tank is empty or if the connections aren't properly mapped yet.
Right.
Our sources really emphasize this physiological connection. Language comes in through the ears first. That's the primary channel. Input dictates output, essentially. The ears train the mouth.
So what's happening when you listen consistently every day, even for short periods?
Your brain is doing way more than just looking up words in its internal dictionary. It's subconsciously absorbing patterns, rhythm, intonation, how words connect together in natural speech. Liaison where sounds blend.
Really get out becomes get out.
Exactly. It's learning the music of the language, the flow. This constant exposure provides the blueprint, the model your brain needs to eventually imitate and then generate its own smooth speech.
Without enough of that input, your speaking will sound.
Kind of disjointed. Maybe grammatically correct based on rules, but unnatural. Because the underlying model for fluent, connected speech isn't fully formed in your brain.
Okay, but listening can feel overwhelming too. People think they need to understand like 100% of a podcast or a movie for it to count as practice.
And that's actually counterproductive. Creates too much stress and cognitive load. That's why the 50% rule from the sources is so helpful.
The 50% rule.
Yeah, you don't need to understand every single word. If you're getting the gist, maybe around 50% comprehension, the main idea, who's talking about what, that's enough. Keep listening.
Don't stress about catching every detail.
Right. Trying to understand everything forces your brain into overdrive, just focusing on meaning. But if you relax that need for total comprehension,
What happens then?
you free up mental resources. Your brain can shift some focus to the how of the language, the sounds, the rhythm, the structure, not just the what. Brain is amazing at pattern recognition. It will naturally start picking up more vocabulary and structure over time as long as the input is regular and not totally overwhelming.
So, consistent, comprehensible input is the fuel. But how do we make that fuel really stick? How do we move from just understanding to being able to use it automatically? Now we get to what the sources call the real magic ingredient for improving conversation. Repetition. Repetition. I can almost hear learners groaning. Sounds boring, right? Listening to the same thing over and over.
It could feel boring, sure, but neurologically, it's incredibly powerful. Probably the single most important factor for building automaticity.
Okay, explain the brain science. Why does repetition work so well?
Think about memory. When you hear or learn a new sentence or phrase just once, your brain creates a tiny, very fragile connection, a little neural pathway.
Like a faint pencil line.
Exactly. And if you do nothing else with it, that connection fades really quickly. It gets pruned away, maybe within hours or days. This is why you feel like you learn vocabulary and then you immediately forget it.
The pencil line gets erased.
Right. But if you repeat that sentence, if you hear it again, read it again, maybe even say it again today, tomorrow, next week, you're firing that same neural pathway over and over.
You're reinforcing the connection.
You're making the pathway stronger, thicker, more permanent. This process is called memory consolidation. You're basically telling your brain, hey, this piece of information is important. Keep it.
And that stronger pathway means faster recall.
Much faster. It moves the information from your slow, effortful declarative memory, like knowing grammar rules, into your fast, automatic procedural memory. That's the memory you use for skills, like riding a bike or speaking fluently.
You want the automatic system engaged when you speak, not the slow rule-checking system.
Absolutely. Repetition builds that fast, automatic pathway. It's the workout for your language memory.
Okay, This makes a really strong case for listening to the same podcast episode or audio clip multiple times, doesn't it? Instead of always chasing new content.
Yes, that's a common mistake, just consuming vast amounts of new stuff without reinforcing anything. Structured, repeated listening is far more effective for speaking skills.
Let's break down what happens on each listen. Say you listen to the same 5-minute audio 3 times. What's the benefit layering?
Okay, so the first time you listen, your main goal, consciously or subconsciously, is just general understanding. What's the topic? Who's involved? What's the main point? You're getting the big picture.
Makes sense. Just trying to follow along.
Then, the second time you listen to that exact same audio, your brain doesn't have to work so hard on basic comprehension. It already knows the gist.
So it has some spare capacity.
Exactly. That frees up mental bandwidth. Now you start noticing things you missed the first time, specific vocabulary words, interesting phrases, maybe some idioms. You're catching the details. Okay, listen 1, gist. Listen 2, details, vocab. What about the third time? By the third listen, comprehension is pretty solid. Now your brain can shift focus again, this time to the deeper structures. You start noticing pronunciation more clearly, the rhythm and intonation patterns, how sentences are actually put together grammatically in natural speech.
So you're not consciously thinking, oh, that's the present perfect continuous, but you're internalizing the pattern.
You're absorbing the natural flow and structure without needing to analyze it like a grammar exercise. It's becoming part of your intuitive feel for the language.
This whole process, input, repetition, internalizing patterns, it sets the stage perfectly for actually starting to produce the language more actively, right? Which brings us to a technique called shadowing.
Yes, shadowing. This is where we move from passive absorption to active training of the physical act of speaking. It's like taking the theory and putting it into practice, literally training your mouth.
Okay, define shadowing for us. What does it actually involve?
Shadowing means speaking along with an audio recording. You try to mimic the speaker in real time, matching their speed, their rhythm, their pronunciation, their intonation as closely as you can, saying the word simultaneously.
Whoa. Okay, that sounds difficult, especially if the audio is fast or if you're still struggling with freezing. Isn't that going to just cause more frustration?
It definitely feels tricky at first, no doubt about it.
Mhm.
And you're right, you shouldn't start by trying to shadow like a rapid-fire news report. That would be overwhelming.
So how do you start?
Start small, really small.
Yeah.
Pick just one short segment of the audio you've already listened to a couple of times, maybe 30 seconds, maybe even just 1 or 2 sentences.
Okay, a tiny chunk.
And your goal initially isn't perfect word-for-word accuracy. You might stumble. You might be a fraction of a second behind the speaker. That's fine. The real goal here is physiological.
Physiological, you mean training the muscles.
Exactly. You're training your tongue, your lips, your jaw to make the specific movements required for English sounds and rhythm. You're building muscle memory for speaking.
So the immediate benefit isn't remembering more words, it's getting your mouth to move more smoothly in English patterns.
Precisely. Shadowing is fantastic for improving your pronunciation, your rhythm, your intonation, the whole music of the language. By forcing yourself to try and keep pace, you're also training your brain to retrieve words and phrases faster.
It helps you think less and speak more automatically.
That's the core benefit. It physically connects what you hear with your ability to produce those sounds smoothly.
This brings us right back to that athlete analogy you used earlier. If speaking is a skill like sports.
Then shadowing is like doing specific drills or weightlifting for the muscles involved in that skill. In this case, the muscles in your mouth and throat.
And just like with athletes in the gym, doing it once won't change much. It has to be consistent, right?
Consistency is everything. It's probably the most critical factor overall. Think about building any kind of physical strength.
Right. If you go to the gym for, say, 4 hours once a month.
You'll see almost no real improvement. Your muscles might be sore the next day, but there's no lasting change. That big, sporadic effort just doesn't build strength effectively.
But if you do just, what, 15 or 20 minutes every single day?
Then the small improvements compound. Day after day, week after week, boom, you get stronger. The consistency builds the muscle.
And it's the same neurologically for language learning. Exactly the same principle. Our sources are really clear on this, even giving specifics. Those 15 minutes of focused, consistent practice every day are significantly better for your brain than one big 2-hour study session once a week. Why is daily better? Because you're constantly reinforcing those neural pathways we talked about. You're sending a repeated signal to your brain. This English skill is important. Keep strengthening these connections. Daily practice prevents those pathways from fading, whereas inconsistency tells the brain,
Yeah, maybe this isn't so important after all. Let's prune those connections. Consistency signals priority, and that makes progress pretty much inevitable over time.
okay, so we've got the importance of input through listening, the power of repetition, and this active output training with shadowing, all done consistently. But what about actual conversation practice? What if you don't have native speakers around to talk to every day? Are you just stuck?
No, absolutely not. This is a huge misconception that you need a native speaker partner to practice speaking. It's helpful, sure, but it's not essential, especially in the beginning stages.
So what can you do instead?
You use the power of internal practice, self-talk. You become your own conversation partner.
Talking to yourself.
Essentially, yes,
Yeah.
but in a structured way. This is how you bridge that gap between passively knowing English vocabulary and grammar and actively thinking in English.
Ah, thinking in English. That seems like the key to bypassing that translation step that causes the freeze.
That's exactly the goal. If the thought originates in English, there's no need to translate, which means much faster, smoother speech.
So how does self-talk work? Is it just like random mumbling? No, it should have some focus. Good methods include narrating your daily actions out loud. If you're making coffee, say it. Okay, I'm getting the mug. Now I'm pouring the water. I need some milk. Describing what you're doing as you do it.
Or you can plan your day out loud in English. Or ask yourself questions and answer them. What do I need to do today? First, I need to finish that report. Then I should call.
So you're using the language for immediate real-world context, even if it's just in your own head or spoken quietly.
Right. It might feel really weird at first, talking to yourself about washing the dishes or walking down the street.
Yeah, I can imagine feeling a bit silly.
Most people do initially. But the benefit is huge. This practice forces your brain to retrieve and use the vocabulary related to your actual life, the exact words you're likely to need in everyday conversation.
And it gets your brain used to processing thoughts in English.
It shifts the default processing language away from your native tongue towards English, cutting out that translation middleman. When you reduce or eliminate that translation lag, your speaking speed and smoothness increase dramatically. Consistent internal practice is incredibly powerful for responsiveness.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we're moving from knowing the theory to building the practical, automatic ability. To help people see the light at the end of the tunnel, let's talk about the journey itself. Let's map out the stages of fluency. But first, what do we actually mean by fluency in this context?
Good point. Let's clarify what fluency isn't. It does not mean speaking super fast.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean sounding exactly like someone from London or New York. We need to ditch those narrow, often intimidating models.
So, based on our sources, how should we define true fluency?
True fluency is about being able to communicate your thoughts and feelings naturally, smoothly, and confidently enough that people understand you easily and ideally enjoy talking with you.
It's about comfortable, effective connection.
Exactly. Communication that flows across different topics without constant, painful struggle.
And that doesn't just happen overnight, it's a progression, right? Our sources talk about distinct stages learners typically go through.
Yes, usually 4 main stages. Recognizing these can help you understand where you are now and what to focus on next.
Okay, what's stage one? Stage 1 is that foundation phase, and often the most frustrating. The constant translation stage. Everything you hear gets translated into your native language in your head, and everything you want to say starts in your native language.
And then it has to be mentally translated back into English before you can say it, word by word, often.
That totally explains the fruising and the slowness. Your brain is doing double duty, running two intensive programs at once.
It's incredibly inefficient and taxing.
Yeah.
But then, with consistent input and practice, especially repetition, you start moving into stage 2,
Which is?
the chunking stage.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of translating individual words, your brain starts recognizing and retrieving whole phrases or chunks of language automatically.
Like, how are you doing? Or, I don't know. Or, what do you mean?
Exactly. Prefabricated units. Retrieving a chunk is much faster than building a sentence word by word from scratch. So your speech starts to sound noticeably smoother and faster, even if it's just in short bursts.
Okay, from translation to chunks, what's stage 3?
Stage 3 is a really significant cognitive leap. We call it the focus shift. This is where you gradually stop consciously worrying so much about individual grammar rules.
Like, do I need a or the here? Is this the right verb tense?
Right. You stop obsessing over those micro details because your brain is starting to handle more of the grammar and structure automatically in the background. Your main conscious focus shifts to the meaning you want to express.
So you're thinking about the message, not the mechanics.
Precisely. Communication becomes the priority over grammatical perfection. This is often when learners first realize, hey, I don't think I'm translating anymore.
That must feel amazing, and that leads to the final stage.
Automaticity. This is the goal. Conversation starts to feel natural, intuitive. You're not consciously thinking about sentence structure or searching desperately for vocabulary.
You're talking.
You're just participating in the conversation, using English as a tool to connect and share ideas rather than constantly analyzing the tool itself.
The ultimate aim. Stop thinking about English and just speak English. And the really cool thing is, our sources suggest this stage, this feeling of automaticity. It's not magic. It's the guaranteed outcome if you consistently apply the right methods.
Consistent input, repetition, active practice like shadowing and self-talk.
Feed your brain correctly and consistently, and it will build those automatic pathways.
Okay, that's incredibly motivating. But theory is one thing, action is another. We promised listeners a practical plan. If someone wants to start today to break free from the freeze, what's the simple, actionable blueprint?
All right, let's distill all this into a super simple, manageable, 5-step daily plan that anyone can start right now, no matter how busy they are.
Step 1.
Listen to 10 to 15 minutes of slow English every single day, non-negotiable.
And slow English means either materials specifically made for learners, clear speech, maybe slightly slower pace, or just standard English content that's comfortably below your absolute limit. Something you can understand maybe 60–80% of without huge stress. Make it a habit, like brushing your teeth. Okay, daily listening, check. Step 2.
Listen to the same 10-15-minute audio clip 3 times during the week. Don't jump to new material every day. Remember the power of repetition for building those memory links.
Got it. Repeat the same audio. Step 3.
After your second or third listen to that clip, pick one small part, maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and practice shadowing it, just for a minute or 2. Focus on rhythm and flow.
Targeted shadowing practice. Okay.
Step 4.
Speak out loud every day using self-talk, even for just 5 minutes. Narrate your actions, plan your day, ask and answer questions, train that internal monologue to work in English.
Daily self-talk. Crucial. And finally, step 5. Actively review and repeat 3 to 5 useful phrases or chunks you notice during your listening. Keep a small, active list of phrases you can pull out quickly in a real conversation. Your go-to responses. Okay, let's recap the 5 steps. 1. Daily slow listening, 10-15 minutes. 2. Repeat the same audio 3x a week. 3. Shadow a small part after listening. 4. Daily self-talk, 5 minutes. 5. Review and repeat 3 to 5 useful phrases. That's the core routine. It's focused, it's manageable, and it targets all the key areas: input, repetition, pronunciation, and automatic recall.
This sounds so much more effective and less daunting than trying to, memorize a dictionary or spend hours on complex grammar exercises.
Like I said, it's about smart, consistent practice that aligns with how your brain actually learns a skill.
Hmm.
And the promise here, based on the principles we've
Yes.
discussed,
What's the transformation potential?
if you genuinely commit to this simple 5-step plan consistently for just 3 months, you will experience a profound difference in your ability to speak English.
3 months of consistent effort. What changes can people expect to feel?
You'll find yourself searching for words less often. Your replies will become faster, more automatic. You'll feel that internal confidence start to build because you know you've been training your brain correctly.
And maybe, just maybe,
You'll actually start to enjoy speaking English. The fear, the dread, it starts to lift because the act itself becomes easier and more rewarding.
that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? Enjoying the connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And always keep perspective. Conversation is a journey. It's not a race. It's okay to speak slowly at first. It's okay to use simple words. Every single time you speak, you're taking a step forward. Okay, so let's just quickly circle back and highlight the absolute essentials we've covered today for melting that language freeze.
2 things stand out above all else. First, consistent daily listening, that targeted input that feeds your brain the patterns and sounds of the language.
Input first,
Hmm.
and second,
Repetition. Purposefully repeating material to solidify those memory pathways, turning conscious knowledge into automatic skill. Input and repetition are the twin engines of automaticity.
get those right, and the speaking starts to take care of itself.
With that kind of targeted, skill-based practice, the words will start to flow more easily. Your sentences will sound more natural over time, and you'll see real growth happening through those small, consistent daily steps, not through huge, unsustainable bursts of effort.
All right, time for our final thought, something for you, the listener, to take away and mull over. Think about this. The real breakthrough moment in fluency isn't necessarily when you suddenly master a complex grammar point or learn a fancy new idiom. What is it then?
It's the moment you realize you've gone through a whole conversation, or even just part of one, without consciously thinking about the English language itself. You weren't analyzing verbs or prepositions.
You were just communicating.
Oh,
Focus on the person, the topic, the connection.
exactly. That feeling of the language becoming transparent, automatic, almost invisible, that is the feeling of fluency. You're no longer thinking about English, you're simply thinking in English and speaking.
And that moment isn't luck.
It's an inevitable result. It's the biological payoff for the consistent, small steps you commit to taking starting today. So shift your perspective. Stop seeing language learning as this huge, scary academic mountain.
And start seeing it as,
A muscle, a skill you are deliberately, patiently, consistently building day by day. Do the reps, and the strength of fluency is guaranteed to come.
build that muscle. Keep listening, keep practicing, keep speaking. That's it for this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.